news. Now, we've been talking about all these economic indicators, and we've delved into them, and they're basically showing us that we're in a recession, headed for a recession. I do believe we're already in that recession. It's just being covered up by statistical illusionary tricks that the government, the Fed, are using, just like in 2008. Way before the recession was announced, we were already in a recession. Think about it. The subprime securities were rated AAA. That was fake. That wasn't real. People were basing their investments on fake information. The same thing is happening right now. People are basing all of what they do on what the corporate media is putting out there, what the government is putting out there, and all of it is fake. The system is breaking down, and it is a race to see who controls the narrative. Remember, we are in a system that was created by the central banking system. This isn't the founding father system that they created, and I'm talking about the monetary system. This is a system back in 1913 when the central bank came into existence. This is their system, and their system does not work for the people. Their system only works for them, and it dies every 45 years. And basically what has been happening is their system dies, and then it has to be reintroduced. It dies, it has to be reintroduced, and this is what they've been doing over time. Just like from 1945 after the war, and they usually like to have wars and events so they can cover it up and say, okay, let's restart the system. 1945, where the system was restarted, all the way up to the 70s. I mean, we're talking in play about 30-something plus years. And they restarted the system, and they took us off the gold standard, and now we're here 40 plus years. They're going to do it again. But there's a problem. They need to control the narrative, and the key players are no longer in place. This is their major problem right now, because they had it planned. They thought they were going to have their key players all in place, but the whole thing is falling apart. But we can see that things are breaking down very, very quickly. And we see that banks, they are preparing for this. Now, we're seeing many banks throughout Europe, they're having a huge amount of trouble. We've talked about this in other reports, where most of them are insolvent, and they're going to go down with the ship, and it's going to spread to other banks. And we see there are certain banks, and there's going to be many more than just this one, they're going to start to restructure, which means lay off a lot of people, and try to prepare for what is coming. Now, about a month ago, we reported that Deutsche Bank was going to cut about 1,000 jobs. And everyone said, what's a big deal? 1,000 jobs. Not a big deal. And we said, well, most likely this is going to be a lot more than just 1,000 jobs. Now, they're looking to eliminate 10,000 jobs. That's about 1 in 10 employees. I think this number is going to go a little bit higher. And we're going to hear other banks come out and say they're going to restructure also, because they're preparing for what is coming. And what is coming is a total implosion of the system. That is what is coming. And we see right now, this is what they're getting prepared for, because what we could see in the economy, things are rapidly falling apart. We see new home sales, they have slid again in April, and they have dropped by 1.5% month on month. And basically the housing market is just bouncing around, and this is the way the central bankers kind of like it. They like to have it bounce around, really go nowhere, because they know as they raise the interest rates, it's just going to get worse, because refis are going to decline, mortgage apps are going to decline, it's all going to decline, and they understand this. They did this back in 2006-07, leading into the 2008-2009 Great Recession, where they were raising interest rates, and all of a sudden everything started to break down. The same thing is happening here once again. Now, what's very interesting, as mortgage applications decline, refinancing declines, we see, and sales are declining, we see new home sale prices on homes, they are increasing. They're at all-time highs right now, which is kind of odd. And we can see that this whole strange economy is continuing on, because when you manipulate everything, when you completely manipulate everything all around you, everything doesn't make sense. And we're living in an illusionary economic system, just like we were back in 2008, where everyone thought, oh, my house is going to continually rise, the stock market's going to continually move up, our sales are going to continually rise, everything's going to be great, retail is going to continually expand, and then everything started to break down. The same thing is happening right now. Now, the dollar, the fiat currency, that is losing value like there's no tomorrow. Since the central bank has come into existence, since they took us off the gold standard, since they started to create currency like crazy, the value of fiat currency continually loses its value. Now, Gold Switzerland recently reported that in the 2 decades since 1999, the dollar has devalued against gold by over 80%. The currencies of countries like Argentina, Venezuela, were once strong and appeared just as invincible as the US dollar. Argentina has suffered one economic setback after another in the last few decades, leaving the peso 95% weaker than it was in 2001. Venezuela is no better, with a currency that has lost about 99.7%, and we know the U.S., the deep state, has been pushing Venezuela, placing sanctions on Venezuela, because they really want regime change. That's the end game there. But we can see Venezuela and many other countries are turning away from the dollar and moving towards other currencies or cryptocurrency. And we see right now that they have lost value there. Now, Gold Switzerland noted, if wealthy Argentinians and Venezuelans had kept their savings in gold, they would be in a very good position right now. In fact, they would be living like kings in their home country. Very few people hold gold or understand the importance of gold for wealth preservation right now. They don't understand what is happening in Argentina. Venezuela will soon happen here in Western countries. All of these bubbles, all the lies, everything that we're seeing is eventually going to come to an end. It always does. And for those people who think it's not, go back in history and check it out. Nothing lasts forever. And things always come to an end, especially when it's manipulated, especially when it's a system that is designed to implode after 40 to 45 years. And when you start to look at the fiat currency compared to gold with a 100-year historical chart, it shows that though prices have fluctuated up and down, and remember there's manipulation in the gold and the precious metals market, even with manipulation, guess what? Gold still retains its value and consistently rises over the years. While an ounce of gold would have cost you just over $482 back in 1915, the same ounce of gold would now set you back $1,310. The dollar, on the other hand, is backed by absolutely nothing but debt, because that's what the central bank does. It backs everything by debt because it's a debt-based system. Its collapse is inevitable. The national deficit has consistently increased year after year since 1957, a trend that is not sustainable indefinitely. And basically what has happened here is, as the fiat currencies continually lose value, gold, which is a store of wealth, well, it holds its value. It increases as fiat currency declines. And this is what we've been seeing over time. Even as precious metals are completely manipulated by the central bank, they can't bring it down to 300 or 200 or what. It wouldn't even make sense. So they keep it at a place where it kind of makes sense to people that this is where gold and silver would be. Of course, those who are working in the gold and silver industry say this is absolutely ridiculous. And those people looking at the economic turmoil throughout the world say this is ridiculous, but for the average everyday person, they're looking at this and they're saying, yeah, this is about right. This is what it should be. But in reality, without the manipulation, you take this all away, what happens? Gold prices soar because the dollar has lost value. And just like with Argentina, Venezuela, and many other countries, as the fiat currency continually loses value, as they create more currency, as they try to push out more debt and bonds, guess what happens to gold? It protects you. And this is what we've been talking about all along. And we could see that the dollar, that day of collapsing and imploding and having the dollar destroyed, it is coming. And it's coming much quicker than I believe people really think it is. Because it won't take much to switch to a different reserve currency. I mean, really think about this for a second. China and Russia, they have created everything that is here in the West. They have payment system, they have the exchanges, they have the gold trade system, they have the petro-yuan, where the United States has the petrodollar. They've been purchasing a huge amount of gold, and they've duplicated everything. They've been making bilateral trades all across the world. They have the One Belt, One Road. They have all the manufacturing that the United States once had. And there's something very important about all of this. They can run their system without the dollar. Think about that for a sec. They can run the entire system without the dollar. They don't even need it. And more countries are looking at this saying, why are we still with the U.S.? They have a huge amount of debt. Do they really have gold? There hasn't been an audit in how many years? Yes, Mnuchin showed us one gold bar in the same room they always go to, but no one actually looked into the room. No one actually looked at the gold. Nobody's seen the serial numbers. Nobody's tested the gold. And once again, the world is going to wake up. And they are waking up. Why do you think countries are repatriating their gold? They're not saying, hey, you know something? Give us the store of fiat currency. You know, all the currency that we keep in the banks overseas, we want all that back. No, they're not asking for that. They're asking for their gold back. Turkey, Germany, and many other countries have been asking for the gold back. There's a reason for this. There's a reason why Russia and China have been purchasing a huge amount of gold. There's a reason why central bankers demonize gold and silver and cryptocurrencies. And I know many people out there don't believe in cryptocurrencies, and that's fine. You don't have to. You don't have to believe in gold and silver either. You can believe in the fiat currency the central bank puts out there. But just be warned, when that crashes and burns, like it always does, you're going to lose out. Just like during the 2006, 2007, 2008 years when everyone was out there and the corporate media was out there, the central bank was out there telling you that real estate doesn't go down. Real estate is contained. It will not lose value. You will be fine. Don't worry about it. And guess what? We're not forecasting any type of recession anytime soon. Of course, this was saying that they said this in the year that we had the recession. You can believe all that. That's fine. But when the system, as they lie to you, and the system completely breaks down, you're going to be left with absolutely nothing. Think about all those people in Venezuela and Argentina, like we said. If they purchased gold before everything started to go south, they'd be pretty well off right now. If you purchased gold back in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 80s, the 90s, in 2000, you'd be pretty well off right now. You would have insured your wealth. Because when you see inflation, it doesn't mean the item is actually getting more expensive. It means the dollar is losing its value, and you need more of those dollars just to afford that item. The item doesn't change. Actually, the process of creating a lot of these items is streamlined, and it's easier and cheaper to create them. But the reason why you're paying more, it's because the dollar lost its value, and it's losing its value every day. You can see it. Every time you see the price go up on food or anything else, it's because the dollar just lost more of its value. That is what you're seeing. So you need to be ready and prepared. You need to understand what is happening, because eventually it will hit the U.S. And it's going to hit pretty darn hard, because we're the reserve currency of the world. And when it does hit, a lot of people are going to be very upset. A lot of people were upset in 2008 because their pension plans, their investments, they all depended on that AAA rating, where they believed that these subprime securities were solid. They were the best you could possibly purchase, and your investment was going to be safe. And it was just one gigantic illusion. It was a lie. And people lost their life savings. People lost their homes. People lost their pensions, their jobs, because of what happened. What do you think is going to happen this time? You think they fixed everything? You think everything's back to normal? They created all this currency, propped up the banks. Retail is declining rapidly. The housing market is in bubbles in 20 different cities. We're already seeing the bubbles pop in Canada, Australia, Europe, even here in the U.S. Mortgage applications are declining. Refinance applications declining. And as the bubbles continually move, higher and higher, and they inflate, they're going to burst, just like they did in 2008 when real estate was at an all-time high. We're actually higher than that now. When it all comes crashing down, it's going to be a total disaster. Banks know it. They're already preparing for it. The elite are already preparing for it. They already know what's going to happen. So get prepared.